Hi, my name's Ken, and I'm 38, American, living in Vietnam. Have a wife, 1-year-old little boy, Kevin. And this is my story of how I struggled with TMJ and postural issues for around 15 years, since the time I was about 23. And just in the last 9 months or so, I've been using something called Starecta and feeling much, much better. So this is my story. So it all goes back to around 2002 or 2003. I was living in Boston at the time. I was getting a lot of tightness in my voice and kind of tight in my back, always on my left side. So I started seeing a doctor for the first time there who had me do some physical therapy. I was using some bands, and it was making it a little bit better, but it wasn't curing the issue. So then I had to move to Japan. Started working out of Japan back in 2001, and started seeing a couple doctors in Japan. Got some scans done. I was working around the Asian region, so I also was going to acupuncture and chiropractors in Malaysia, which had it feeling a little bit better. But I was a consultant at the time, and I had one project where I could really feel how my entire kind of neck had just really tightened up, and it was painful. I couldn't concentrate, and I was really worried. So I thought it was stress related, so I had gone on a vacation, things cooled down a little bit, but kind of it never went away, and it was actually worse than it had been. Then in 2003, I moved to Spain to do an MBA, and in Spain I had health insurance, so I started seeing a bunch of docs there because it was all free. I started seeing some neurologists. They told me it might be reflux because I had the voice issue. So I had the camera put down into my stomach. I did all kinds of different tests and scans. I was going to a doctor like once a week. But they couldn't really turn up anything. So, I mean, they would tell me something. I'd try some drugs or something, but it just wasn't the answer. The best thing they gave me was they gave me some really strong kind of nerve blockers, and so with that, it made me feel kind of quite strange, but it did take away a lot of the tightness. So that was up until about 2005. Then I finished my school at that time, went to London, continued seeing therapists. I started trying some cranial work. I was using the NHS system. Tried having Botox. I thought it was like a muscle that had been spasmed up. The Botox didn't help. So yeah, just going to a bunch more doctors in London of different types, but didn't come up with any answers. Then in end of 2006, I moved to Russia. We started going to doctors probably around 2007, 2008 in Russia. Again, just started going to physical therapy, getting a bunch of massage work, going to physiotherapy sessions, but not really making much of a difference. And it was just getting super frustrating at this point. So my voice was getting very tight. I could feel tightness all on my left side every day, even when I was on vacation. Then later on I moved to Ukraine, and somewhere around 2011 or 2010, I'm not sure which, I went to a dentist. I told him what I was feeling, and he was the first one that told me, okay, it might be something with your TMJ. So I had a bunch of scans done at that time. He told me, yeah, I have some issues, and that I should start wearing a bite splint. So he made me a bite splint. I wore it for a little while. It wasn't working out. He referred me to someone else. Had another bite splint made. Again, just minimal impact. So then they referred me to someone that was considered the best dentist in Ukraine. who had a guy on his staff who was kind of a specialist in this area. He had a lower bite splint that he used to adjust every week or two, and it had me feeling a lot better. So that was the first time in up to that point where I felt, oh, okay, maybe this problem's root cause is actually in my bite, because I didn't really know up until that point. So I was feeling really good for a few months, and then the adjustments just seemed to not be working as well, and my symptoms were coming back. And I was asking the guy at the time, his name was Oleg, why is this happening? And he was saying, okay, maybe it's because I had flat feet and that I should get inserts made. So I said, okay, I'll try that. But unfortunately, I was leaving Ukraine at the time. That was early 2014, and I was moving to Vietnam. So as soon as I got to Vietnam, I had the foot inserts made. And I couldn't use the splint that he gave me anymore because he had stopped adjusting it and it wasn't working right. So I had to go to a dentist here in Vietnam who made me another bite splint, a lower bite splint, a hard one. And that one had me feeling awful. So I tried that for a couple months. Then I started hopping dentists, and it was literally like a year of hopping dentists. I started going to one dentist who was considered the top dentist in Vietnam for TMJ. He was had all the diplomas and photos with VIPs, fancy equipment with a fancy office, and he told me I needed a anterior repositioning splint. So I tried that for 3 months or so, and that had me feeling just awful. I started getting really bad brain fog that was affecting my ability to concentrate. I couldn't remember things. I was struggling a lot at work because I just couldn't get things done. I'd literally wake up kind of in fear to go to the office in the mornings because I just knew that it was going to be such a struggle. And at night, I always had tons of tightness, and I was tired, exhausted by around 6 p.m. I was having a little boy. My wife was pregnant, due in July of 2014. So this was the run-up to that time. So I had the stress of my little boy being on the way and this medical issue that had me considering whether I should even stay in Vietnam because I wasn't having much luck. So that continued. Luckily, so my little boy was born without any problems, and I continued to see some other dentists. I saw a really good dentist that was famous with expats, and they tried to help me for a few months, but in the end they said that they couldn't because the splint they gave me just wasn't working. They were using an articulator, and I found out later that actually that doesn't work because it doesn't actually recreate the bite properly. And then I even started writing with a guy in the US that I had found online who considered himself a posture expert, and he said that he had cured a number of people with these TMJ issues, and when I explained to him my symptoms over the phone, he said, yeah, he'll fix me, and he'd guarantee it. So I decided to use the time I had saved up. So instead of going back to New York with my little boy and my wife to visit my parents and let them see their kid, I used that time to actually fly to Orlando, Florida and visit this guy. And he did this thing that was completely useless, didn't help at all. And at that time I also checked out an Atlas orthogonal chiropractor in the US who did the adjustments for a week, but it also didn't help at all. So I got back to Vietnam. This was already late fall 2014, and I was in really bad shape. Like I had really lost hope almost. I was thinking every day whether I should quit my job or not, and it was around that time I started seeing a psychiatrist, even though I hated the idea of it, and she prescribed me an antidepressant that I even tried for 3 or 4 days before I just decided, okay, I'm not going to get into this, I don't want to get hooked. I chucked that stuff into the garbage. And it was around that time that I randomly found, I was Googling like 1 or 2 hours a night at the time, looking for answers, Googling my symptoms, seeing if there were other people that were feeling what I was feeling. and I found a guy, his name's Plato, who had a blog about a different topic. I wrote to him because I was intrigued by what he wrote, and he definitely seemed very knowledgeable. And he wrote me a very short email back answering my question and said, why don't you check out these guys, Starecta.com. So at the time, I immediately jumped onto the site, read the PDF that Morenas got on there, loved it. Just it sounded so much like myself in terms of what he had struggled with, and decided to write to him. He was extremely nice, knowledgeable, helpful, and I said to myself, okay, I got nothing to lose. You know, I am struggling. I'm about to just quit my job because I can't take this. I might as well give this thing a try. So I found all the materials. It was really tough here in Vietnam, but I got them all in a couple weeks, and I made my first splint. At the beginning, it was very small progress for the first few weeks, but then after a month or so, I really started to feel more and more progress, and the whole brain fog started to lift, which was the biggest, problem that I was having in terms of struggling at the office. So as soon as that started lifting, I started feeling more and more confident about work and whatnot. Couple months went by. My boss needed me to actually take on a bit more responsibility, which I was very hesitant about, and I had refused for a couple of times. But I was feeling confident enough about my progress that I decided to accept that. And that was early 2015. So I continued my adjustments with Starecta. My posture was improving. I used to always lean to the left and have to lean back on a chair. I could never sit up straight. But after about the third month of Starecta, I was sitting straight on a chair without even thinking about it for hours. And I was just amazed. I hadn't been able to do that in 10 years or more. And my voice was getting more and more resonant. I always had a very soft-spoken, breathy voice, which I didn't understand why, because it didn't really reflect the personality that I had when I was a teenager. I was actually a very outgoing social kid. So I was really happy about all that progress. And so I've been continuing with Starecta. I'm still using it now. I'd say I'm about 60 to 70% done with my journey. I still probably have 3 to 6 months more. So I'd say I'm about 60 to 70% of the way there in terms of getting to where I want to be with Starecta. I still have quite a bit of torsion in my chest, and I feel a tightness in the chest, and I can see it in photos that kind of the stomach bows out. So this is what I'm working on now. And I've found that doing some body work to release the muscles will help facilitate the process that Starecta is doing to help straighten the body and the head out. So anyway, I've can't say enough good things about Starecta. I think it's, in my mind, it's given me a second shot on life. It's given me the chance to enjoy being a father, being a husband, and just getting out of the dark tunnel that I was in a year ago. So I hope this has been helpful to you, and whatever journey you guys choose to take, I wish you the very best.